There are a number of potential measurement biases that you need to be considering when you're reading a scientific paper. One is detection bias. And here there's actually two different issues. One is, were the groups measured the same way? Did they use the same instrument in both groups? Or did one group get measured with one form of quality of life measurement and the other group got a different quality of life measurement? That might happen if you're looking at retrospective data and they were measured at different times or in different places. Another form of detection bias is when a measure is more accurate for one group than another. So this could be something like language. So one group is composed of native English speakers and another group is composed of English as a second language speakers. There, even though it's the same measure, it may act differently for one group or another. And the thing that you're looking for is measure validity. That's what reduces the likelihood of something like detection bias. Insensitive measure bias is looking at the precision of your measure. So is your measure going to capture clinically significant differences? So in a lot of OT literature, we're looking for some sort of change as a result of the intervention. We want to see where they start, apply an intervention, and then we want to see some difference from where they started at the end, after the intervention. And if they're using a measure that can't capture a small difference that's still clinically important, that's an insensitive measure bias. And again, you're looking for measure validity. And what I mean there is, did they either cite another study that says we know this measure is valid for this population and this application, or did they demonstrate validity during the study? Observer bias is also sometimes called experimenter bias or researcher bias or expectation bias. And here the idea is the assessor seeing what she wants to see. So if somebody is doing a study and their good friend is the person who is doing the assessing of the outcomes at the end, if they know who's in the intervention group, they may be a little more positive when they're evaluating those people. So you're looking for measure validity and blinded assessors. So this is a case where even though we often can't hide who's in what group from the clinician doing the intervention or from the subjects themselves, we can get a separate blinded person who doesn't know what intervention everyone got and have them do the assessment. That's a way of avoiding observer bias. Recall bias is another one that can frequently come up in occupational therapy research. Here, we're asking people to self-report. And in some cases, we're asking them to self-report things that may be illegal or socially unacceptable, right? Drug use, prostitution, homelessness. And they may not want to tell you how many times, exactly how many cigarettes they smoked in the last week. They may shave it off a little bit. Or they may just not totally remember, right? They may not remember at the end of the month how many cigarettes they smoked in the last month. So either intentionally or unintentionally, this asking people to report what they did in a prior time period can lead to recall bias. And really the only way to avoid this is to do something called prospective data collection. So retrospective means looking back over the last week or month, telling us what you did. Prospective means as you're going along, record that data. So give someone a daily journal to mark in when every day what they did, or to mark down as they do it, here's, I am now smoking another cigarette. Regression towards the mean is referring to this idea that extreme observations are rarely repeated. So if somebody does really, really well on a test or a measure, they're unlikely to repeat that. They're more likely to get a less extreme score. And where this becomes a problem is when investigators use extreme scores either to choose their sample or when they do group assignment. And this can be something like, we have a handwriting intervention, so we chose kids who scored really poorly on a handwriting test. Well, some of those kids may have just done especially poorly that day, and so they're primed to do better regardless of what your intervention is the next time you measure them. Testing effect means that people may improve their score just by practice. So if you give someone a handwriting test at the start of your intervention, and then you give them the same handwriting test every week for 4 weeks as you give the intervention, it may be that they're just getting better at the handwriting test. So what you're looking for is retest reliability. So is this test reliable? Is it going to give similar results over multiple measurements?